Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, is under fire today after he orchestrated Islamic worship in the halls of British Parliament.
Keep in mind, this isn't like America. The UK is a Christian country, okay? It doesn't mean that you can't be another religion in the UK, but their culture is set up. They are literally a Christian country. Like their government and that, they even in schools they'll teach some type of Christianity and some, a little bit here and there. So it's insane. And this isn't the only guy. Like the King of England, okay, who gets his crown through the Catholic Church, because their country is, Christian. He Lent and some other thing that was celebrated by the Muslims at the same time this year. He chose the Muslims to come to the castle, Windsor Castle, right, to celebrate the Muslim religion, and basically spitting on his country's religion. So yeah, the UK is now a Muslim state, believe it or not. And if you don't believe it, you will soon.
This isn't the first time Starmer has bent the knee to the Muslim community in Parliament.
You see Muslims making a difference, helping to deliver every single one of the government's missions. In business, helping to grow our economy. In education, giving our young people the opportunities that they deserve. In our NHS, of course. In charity work. British Muslims are amongst the most generous group in the United Kingdom.
What the heck, man? How are they the most generous? The Muslim countries are third world countries. How are they the most generous people? And I understand he's saying from the UK. But if they just came from the third world country, how are they rich enough to be giving out charity to people? This is a bunch of BS, man.
And beyond. So I must say thank you to you for all of that. And particularly what I know has been a very difficult time for Muslims here in the United Kingdom. With the pain of the conflict in Gaza and the suffering of the Palestinians. I've been profoundly moved by the images of thousands of Palestinians returning to their communities.
If they love Palestine so much, why don't they go there? If they're, if it's a Muslim country and they're so great over there, why are they going to the UK? These people have no allegiance to the country, these first world countries they move to. Zero allegiance. They have allegiance to every other third world country, though, in the world. And everyone accepts that as being okay.
And he even released political propaganda on the subject.
I am here at London Central Mosque, and I'd like to send my warmest wishes, devotion, and renewed strength. It's a time to celebrate the strong sense of community.
Yeah, the strong sense of community he's talking about is a dual society. No country, I don't understand how people are so stupid that you don't know if you have a dual society, it's not going to work out good, because once the minority becomes as large of a population as the majority, you're going to have a civil war at that point. Why wouldn't you? I mean, why wouldn't there be a civil war at that point? They're just all going to, this idea that everyone in the world is just great. What world have you been living in? People in general suck. I don't care whether first world country, third world country, I don't care what color skin, in general, people suck. That's a fact. Why is acting like that isn't true?
As people gather together in mosques and community spaces to share iftar meals with their neighbours.
No, they congregate and they share with their Muslim neighbors. They don't congregate and share with their host who opened up their door to their house, to their country. They don't share with them and try to integrate with them. No.
With my leadership, a future Labour government will stand up for the rights of Muslims and work to ensure Muslim communities feel safe, secure and respected.
Online commentators blasted Starmer's move, saying, "This is Britain, not Qatar." Islamists are cheering worldwide as the British government hands Islam special privileges, turning the UK Parliament into a mosque and forcing all attendees to take part in Islamic worship. A Muslim enforcing all attendees to take part in Islamic worship.
What's funny is, all these third world countries that are Muslim, it's okay for them to be Muslim and stay Muslim and want to stay Muslim and keep their culture. No one bats an eye. But for some reason, if a first world country has a culture that isn't Muslim, they're evil pieces. They're xenophobic. They're racist. They hate everybody. Why is it only that you're the racist if you think that, because you're basing that on you're giving different skin colors different moralities. That's literally the definition of racism. You know what I mean? So you can't. You're a hypocrite.
A Muslim preacher was invited to pray to Allah inside the very halls of British democracy, supposedly to make Muslims, especially migrants, feel more included. But let's be real, this is all meant to please Labour's Muslim voters. This happened while Hamas supporters flood UK streets, marching in the hundreds of thousands, pushing their agenda, normalising support for jihad and terrorism against Israel and Jewish people. Britain, wake up. Your government is bending over backwards for those who openly side with terrorists while silencing anyone who dares to resist. Starmer's elevation of Islam comes as ordinary UK citizens are struggling to live harmoniously with the steep rise of Islam in their schools and neighbourhoods.
This is their schools now in this Christian country, right? This is what they do.
Christianity is also being attacked, with historic churches being converted into mosques.
You'll be excused to think that this is a church, but as is the case across the UK, we've took it over. It's now actually a mosque, a masjid. Christianity is depleting, atheism is unfulfilling, Islam is here and is here to stay.
Former Reform UK candidate Mayuran Senthilnathan blasted the current administration, saying Keir Starmer has sidelined Christianity in favour of Islam.
Yeah, well, good to be with you. But you brought up King Charles, and it's interesting. It highlights a really important thing that's going on between Islam and Christianity. The monarch is traditionally the defender of the faith, and that faith is Christianity. Yeah. But King Charles kind of evolved that statement, that term, to defenders of the faiths, plural, meaning all faiths. But I think he doesn't really understand the theology. I mean, Islam believes that Christ is merely a prophet and not a divine incarnation. And to think of Christ as a divine incarnation, which is the centerpiece of Christianity, is blasphemy. And unless you're a liberal Muslim, quite open-minded Muslim, for most Muslims, it's a blasphemy. So I don't think King Charles understands the theological confrontation and conflict between Christianity and Islam. And I think what's happened is Islam and Christianity, religion in general, has been racialized. And what I mean by that is Islam is seen by the liberal elite in particular as being the religion of brown people. And Christianity in return is seen as the religion of white people. Now, we all know that the left doesn't really have principles. What they have is a hierarchy of minorities. And at the top of that hierarchy is the brown man. And so therefore Islam, what we're seeing is Islam being getting special privileges and Christianity effectively being sidelined. And that's what we saw with King Charles.
But despite the uproar from the Christian and secularist communities in the UK, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage says no political party can win without an Islam-focused campaign platform.
But the nub of it is, we have a Muslim population in Britain growing by about 75% every 10 years. Right? That's just where we are. If we politically alienate the whole of Islam, we will lose. We'll lose.
So how does one include
We
them?
will lose. By 2050, goodness knows what kind of a terrible state we're going to be in.
And commentator Douglas Murray has gone a step further.
What do these people think when half the population is Muslim? They're not going to have Sharia law? They already have Sharia law now in the Muslim communities in the UK. You know what I mean? What's going to happen to the entire country when they get more and more power in the government?
Slamming UK lawmakers' attempt to define Islamophobia, which is yet another attempt to marginalise the non-Muslim community in the UK.
Well, I think it's pretty outrageous for lots of reasons. I mean, one of them is that British Muslims have the same protection as any other citizen in the United Kingdom.
They want more.
They're allowed to harass or, attack places of worship or buildings or anything else, and those laws exist for everybody.
They want more protection. They want more rights. So that's how you bring back racism and discrimination. You give one group more rights than the other group. That's all you have to do. And it doesn't matter how good both groups are, the group that doesn't get as much is going to be pissed.
Of any faith and none. And the problem about this attempt by the Labour government, with a really disastrous former Conservative MP leading it, to set up this commission that's going to try to identify so-called Islamophobia, is among other things, it's simply not going to work. Nobody's ever been able to satisfactorily define Islamophobia.
He's an idiot, okay? And I like that guy, don't get me wrong, he's a good guy, I'd say watch him. But in this instance, he's an idiot because, see, in the UK, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, but in the UK, they have laws against hate speech. See, and that's why people like me don't want hate speech laws, because you can't define them. They're subjective. What's hate speech to you is definitely not hate speech to most people, or, you know what I mean? So once you let the government have any kind of hate speech restrictions, that's it. Your free speech is done. And see, UK already gave up their free speech, right? Because free speech means you have, and I don't want to hear this thing, you're not allowed to, fire when there's no fire in a theater. Yeah, we all know. I'm not going to bring up stuff for 3-year-olds, okay? Because I'm guessing that adults are watching this film. We all know what you're not allowed. You're not allowed to lie in a contract. You're not allowed to, we know that, okay? But we're talking about real stuff here now, okay? Free speech includes all speech, even hate speech, okay? Even misinformation, okay? And no, we're not talking about in contracts. Obviously, there are limits. But once you have hate speech, you have one hate speech law, it just leads to another and another and another and another. Because if you give the government the right to limit speech based on hate, they'll just deem anything you say against them as hate speech. And it'll never end because they will keep doing more and more horrible things and you'll want to say stuff about it. But they'll just say it's hate speech. Yeah, they've already done it. That's what this Islamophobia. You can't define Islamophobia because you can never define hate speech because it's subjective, meaning it's an opinion. Everyone has a different opinion, so you can never define it, ever. That's why they like to do this hate speech stuff and this Islamophobia, which is a type of hate speech, because it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. When something is subjective, that means it's an opinion. That means it doesn't really exist. Just in your head it exists. You know what I mean? What you might say is racist or hate, maybe 8 billion other people on the planet don't think that. So what defines hate speech? Because they want to take your freedom of speech away. And the only way they can do that is by taking it away. One thing, saying it's hate speech. Once they do that, which they've already done in England, once they do that, they're just going to deem everything hate speech that they don't like to hear. Okay? So they don't like to hear you saying that, hey, if you have open borders with no vetting and you let in all the Muslims, obviously the bad ones are going to come in too. Same in America. If you open up all the borders and you let in all the people from Venezuela, then obviously if there's no vetting, the bad ones are going to come in from the cartels and, Mexico and all this other whatever. Obviously, a child would know that, but